What's up everyone, this is Closer91. Today I'm doing another list video. First of all, we were listening to Burzum, self-titled, mainly because I have not listened to this album in so long and I wanted to get back into Burzum. And yeah, unbelievably classic stuff. I own the first 4 records, and I've always wanted to get, because he's not my forte anymore, but I felt the urge to really get back into him, so here we are. So today we're covering the most cavernous or abysmal or like necrotic metal records I know. So we're going to start off with the freshest one, considering I literally just finished listening to it. We got Titan Blood, 7 Chalices. Now, this list is meant to be often very slow and doomy and gross sounding records, but it also can have fast records. And this is some of the most abysmal and just nightmarish and cavernous metal I've ever heard in my life. Parts of this record literally feel like you're being whipped around by a tornado, or like you're in a cave and there's a heavy gust of wind bashing you against the cave wall. It's just incredible. The atmosphere of this record is just incredible. It's very dark and macabre, with especially when you factor in the interludes that are in this record. I can't read half the fucking songs, but there's like 3 or 4 interludes in this record that just sound like very dark, ambient, black speech, and it's really great. And the Abomination of Desolation ending has a choir ending. It's just really amazing. So yeah, this record really is a cavernous and abysmal record that feels claustrophobic and nightmarish, and just all around it's fucking brilliant. This is war metal that doesn't get lost and does not lack originality. This is very original war metal. Sure, it copies, it's predominantly inspired by stuff like Blasphemy and Mystifier, but it has its own personality, and it's just fucking nasty. So, next up we have Havahej, Black Perversion. This is a record you just cannot describe with words. If you have heard this record, you know what I'm talking about. But Havahej, Black Perversion is the most anti-music I've ever heard in my life. Because this not only lacks a lot of structure that makes up traditional metal in terms of like 4/4 time, that kind of stuff, it also is a compilation of just harsh, abrasive noise with Paul's vocals and drumming. So this really is more or less an ambient record that happens to have a lot of metal tinges, but I would consider this noise. The song Black Perversion is a 9-minute epic that just feels like you're floating through space. It feels like you're in an empty void with nothing around you, and it's just incredible. And then Unholy Sodomy and Mary Gods of Shit are both more aggressive, but they're still very ambient driven. The Black Perversion, the song, is just unbelievable. It doesn't feel human in any way. It feels like you've lost all your will to live and you're simply rotting away in the middle of the universe. And it's just unbelievable. Next we have probably the most classic record on this album, on this video. We have Honor to Golgotha, Incantation. Now, I love Incantation partly because they took a lot of risks compared to other bands. If you look at like Deicide, Morbid Angel, Obituary, Cancer, Possessed, Death, those bands, obviously they took creative risks, but they were pretty dissimilar from each other. Incantation does not sound like any of those bands, and that is because it is so dark and so necrotic and so sick sounding. Craig Pillard, the vocalist of this record, who went on to create Isma, just a unbelievable vocalist. he has such a macabre and dark feeling to him that most bands, not only from that era but from the modern era, can never help to replicate, because his drive and conviction is second to none. Um, as far as the best songs on here, it's all amazing, but the ones that stand out the most are Devour Death, Christening the Afterbirth, Deliverance of Horrific Prophecies, and Unholy Massacre. Every single song on this record is amazing, but those ones especially, just unbelievable. So, Incantation, Under to Golgotha, just a perfect record that was ahead of its time and to this day set the precipice for the sound and has never been rivaled. Alright, next we have Archgoat, Poor Bethlehem. I am genuinely not an Archgoat fan. I mean, I like all of the records. I own all of the records, but would I ever brand myself an Archgoat fan and like nerd out about them? No. Mainly because all their records are pretty fucking similar. They do have a lot of nuances. This one is just pure darkness. Light Devouring Darkness is a bit more ambient. The newest one is a lot more ritualistic. So they do obviously have the nuances. They all sound very different. But if you have one, you really kind of have them all. Granted, to be fair, I do have them all, so bit of a hypocrite. But regardless, yeah, this record though is incredible. This record really all blends together in one row. There's no riffs that stick out that much. There's no songs that stick out that much. It all is just one big brick of atmosphere. And it's just a necrotic, cavernous sound that I think Blasphemy started, but this band took it to a whole nother level, because this is vicious and hateful. And Blasphemy was obviously hateful, but it doesn't, I don't know. They just didn't convey it nearly as effective as Archgoat did. So Angel Cunt and Poor Bethlehem are two of the most cavernous metal records I've ever heard in my life. They sound like they're recorded in a really shitty recording studio, and it's just like an abandoned building. And that's what this record feels like. It's just incredible. One of the best albums by this band, and I'd say top 20 war metal release of all time, top 15. It's great. So Poor Bethlehem. All right, next we have Judas Iscariot, Heaven in Flames. I was torn on what to include with Judas Iscariot. I could have included this or Dethroned, Conquered, and Forgotten, but I thought this is not quite as aggressive as Dethroned, Conquered, and Forgotten. Dethroned, Conquered, and Forgotten is just fucking balls to the wall, hateful, nihilistic, pissed off black metal. Whereas this, it does have its nuances. Before a Circle of Darkness, Ancient Starry Sky, Eternal Kingdom of Fire, those songs are vicious black metal, but they also have a sense of rhythm and a sense of atmosphere that is unlike some of his other records. But like I said, like with other records, very cavernous and hopeless black metal. They, obviously was very inspired by the Norwegian scene, even this fucking record I'm playing right now. But I think it rivaled and is better than most of that, just through the sheer conviction and hatred compelled that was written in this record. The sheer hatred and visceral discontent is powerful. So yeah, Judas Iscariot, one of the best black metal bands ever. This album is one of the most dark and hopeless and bleak records to ever exist. And it's just brilliant. I'm not a fan of the really early Judas Iscariot records, By Dying Light and Polar Step Below. I'm not a fan of those records because they are so similar to Dark Throne. But this one is the one that breaks off. It has a lot of Dark Throne elements, but it has its own personality too, and that's why I love it. So can't praise Judas Iscariot enough. All right, next one we have Imprecation, Thurguria Goetta Summa. This has quickly become in my top 10, top 20 death metal records of all time. Maybe even top 5, I'm not sure. This record is unbelievable. To me, this is death metal drawing down the moon. In the sense that it's very ritualistic and atmospheric and kind of beautiful, but also very dark and brooding. The Throne is Lost, The Awakening Majestic Darkness, Vomit Floods of Christian Remains, that's an amazing fucking song. Blasphemy Reigns of the Underworld. This whole record, front to back, is flawless, with some of the most incredible instrumentation I've ever heard in my life in a death metal band. You know, most bands choose between being brutal or being like progressive. This is a mix of both, and it's incredible because of that. So, yeah. Sorry, y'all, had to pause for a minute. But yeah, Imprecation, just very, very doomy and atmospheric. I'd say black and death metal because it has a lot of black metal, a lot of death metal influence. I'd say it's mostly death metal though, but regardless, it does have influence in both. So yeah, Imprecation as a band is unbelievable. Let me see. Yeah, I have these other 2 records. This one especially is fucking nasty as fuck. But yeah, Imprecation as a whole is just an incredibly great band that kind of grew with the genre, you know, because this album, they made a classic record, and you know, they could have just stayed their style, but they actually evolved. But they never abandoned who they are, and then yeah, it's great. But this record will always be a monolith of death metal that is just perfect in every sense of the word. So yeah. Also, I love this is the Gustave Doré painting from Dante's Inferno, which is cool. All right, final record. We've got Leviathan, Tentacles of Horror. This is a band that, as you guys know, I used to not shove about. I still like Leviathan quite a bit. Actually, no, I love Leviathan. This record is unbelievable, but I just never listened to him. You know, one, it's summer, so it's just a weird, doesn't really work. And 2, I listen to so much bestial death metal shit now that it's kind of hard to find room for it. But Leviathan will always be a special band. He, to me, is the master of atmosphere. He is the master of bleak, cold atmospheres that don't venture into DSPM, that stay cold and raw, but never become whiny. This is just a massive monolith of a hateful and nihilistic record. Never DSPM. And this record especially is just perfect. Decibel of Suicide, I think, is way better. But I gotta be honest, I enjoy this one more recently. So yeah, Leviathan, unbelievable band. This record, Reveal the Tyrant, Blood Red and True, History of Rape, What Fresh Hell, just abysmal, hateful, nihilistic black metal, and just some classic shit. So, if you guys enjoyed the list, please feel free to comment below any abysmal records you know, just really dark and aquatic. You know, I almost included Monotheist by Celtic Frost on here, but I'm like, that's not the whole record. It is very cavernous, but not the whole record. Anyway, let me know what you thought of my list. If you have any ideas to recommend to me or people in the comments. And thanks for watching. See you guys in the next one. Peace.